Hey everyone, have you ever finished a manuscript and you've got this in hand and you found someone to read it and you give it to them and you're all so excited, like they're going to give me some good feedback. But then when they come back and you say, "What did you think?" The response is, "Your characters are like cardboard cutouts. They're flat." And you realize that you spent all this time working on the protagonist and the villain and even those quirky side characters, and they're just not resonating. You may find yourself asking, why do my characters just feel like background noise in the story instead of being the beating heart of my story? Now, if you can relate to any of this, stick around, because I'm not just going to talk about the problems and what causes this, but I'm also going to give you solutions to help you fix your characters so that instead of being flat paper dolls, they are living, breathing, fully dynamic characters that capture your reader's mind. Writing mistake number one is that they've got a trophy case instead of a personality. I mean, you spent all this time developing your character, you got all this information and all these accomplishments and achievements and accolades, and you've got them all and you can just list them out. The problem is that your reader doesn't care about what your character has done. What they care about and what they attach to is what the character actually does, how they feel, what they think in the moment, and what's happening in the story. It's actual things that are happening currently. The accolades and the accomplishments, that's the background, but that isn't what your reader connects with. A truly memorable personality or character is one that is full of dreams and fears and desires and really has like deep-seated things that they're going after and ambitions. They're not going to be about the accolades and their past accomplishments. An example of this is Captain Zoe Mather. She's a Space Fleet captain, and she's highly decorated across 3 war campaigns across the universes, and she's got all these awards and accolades. And what does this really tell us about her, other than a really cool resume? Well, now we can shake that up just a little bit, and let's look at Zoe. Let's take just a really zoned in snapshot of her in her private quarters. And she's giving a speech to a house plant that's withered and dying because she can't keep a house plant alive and she just keeps replacing them. And so she's getting ready for a funeral and she's talking to the plant and giving her speech to the plant because she's really nervous about this. And the reason is that all of the cadets that she mentors, they die. And she doesn't want to go through another funeral, and she still has to. And what that does is it really personalizes her. It humanizes her beyond all of her awards and accolades. A quick fix for this is if you find yourself writing characters with lists of adjectives and accomplishments and accolades, take one of them and get rid of it and replace it with one quiet, private moment where you give some vulnerability, you expose some secret part of your character, but make it contradictory to the image and the accomplishments, like in the example of Zoe Mathers. So another example of this would be a ruthless CEO of this big company, and by day he is ruthless with his employees and cutthroat, but he secretly volunteers at an animal shelter because he really likes the unconditional love that he gets from petting the animals and holding them and snuggling them. He gets some joy out of that. It's those delicious contradictions that make the character feel real and human and unforgettable. Contradiction equals memory. And writing mistake number 2 is physical descriptions that read like a passport form. Like, okay, how tall are you? 6 foot, got green eyes and black hair. Just stop already. You know that you've already yawned at that really exciting description of a character, right? Well, you know, those types of descriptions of a character are about as boring as a tax form. Those kinds of descriptions, they're functional. They They have they tell us things, but they tell us absolutely nothing about who that person is, their personality, who the character is deep inside. And so readers can only store maybe 2 visual clues or statements about who the person is, who the character is. But what you want to do is any type of hint or something that you tell people about that character, you want it to say something about who they are as a person, not just how they look. Instead of stating eye color, perhaps you could talk about the twitching eye that they have every time they lie. It's like their giveaway, it's their tell. That's way more descriptive, tells us a lot more about the person and their internal struggle than just telling the reader that the character has blue eyes. Body language and subtle habits beat cold, hard description of how someone looks every time. And why is that? Because the body language and the little small habits that a person has, that reveals personality and what's inside the person. So if someone was going to describe me as a character in a book, they're probably going to use their hands a lot because I use my hands a lot to talk. And that's just one of those subtle body language things that you can add to your character to give a character depth. You don't need to describe everything about the character. You want to leave some things to the reader's imagination. So what you can do for your characters in your story is pick 2, maybe 3 sensory details, minor little habits, body language, some little things that makes that character unique. And then what you want to do is sprinkle those things in throughout the first part of the book to kind of give the reader a flair and a curiosity that maybe the reader wants to understand, why does a character do this? And then the reader will be hooked and want to find out more about this character. All right now I want you to take a breath and pause for just a second. And you may want to go back 30 seconds and rewatch the last 30 seconds and really evaluate those first 2 points that I made. And then when you're ready, drop a comment on which one of those 2 writing tips, writing mistakes, have you accidentally made in your writing. And writing mistake number 3 is that they want something and that's it. They just want something. And so it could be like, my character wants to be free. My character wants to belong in a family. My character wants to climb to the top of that mountain. And even though those things may sound like noble things or they may be good, they're somewhat unsatisfying for the reader. Vague yearnings lead to vague action, which leads to forgettable characters that just drift through the plot rather than driving the plot. Memorable characters pursue a goal that is like life and death to them, even if the people or the world around them see it as trivial. If it's a serious matter for the character, then it drives the story and it drives the development and depth of your character. This isn't just about external goals. This is about what's happening inside of them, their internal drive to do something or be something or achieve something. So let's talk about one of my favorite examples. It's Katniss Everdeen from Hunger Games. So Katniss Everdeen, she doesn't just want to be free. Like, it's not a nebulous thing of, I just want to be free. No, her main goal is to keep Prim alive in the very first book. So that is the driving force for Katniss. I'm going to keep Prim alive no matter what it takes. And she is willing to do anything to achieve that goal, even if it means killing someone, which she really doesn't want to do, but she will if it means protecting her sister. So what you want to do is make the stakes granular, really tight and small. What exactly is at stake for your character with everything that happens, moment by moment? What will they lose? Will they lose their home? Will they lose their best friend? What's going to happen? The more specificity, the more exact, the better. And the more granular and the more deeper you can go with that, the more your reader can connect and be more invested for the character. Another thing you can do is to make the goal shift partway through the story. And this is something that can really keep your readers on their toes. And it can also be a way for you to reveal different facets of your character's personality or the way that their mind thinks. Now, an example of this would be a character who has a sibling and the character is stealing medicine to help their sibling survive. But partway through the story, the character discovers that the medicine that they've been stealing, thinking it's going to save their sibling, is actually a placebo and it's not going to do anything. And so the goals for the character shifts partway through the story. This sudden shift of perspective and direction for your character causes the character to evolve and grow and change internally, because your characters, they're not just plot devices. They need that internal growth and change to really be memorable to your character. And this actually leads into writing mistake number 4. 0 internal conflict. So external monsters are great, like dragons and big giant wars and big bad guys and all kinds of stuff can happen on the external part, and they're great. But the power is in the internal monsters, the things that plague a person from the inside. Those are the things that make your characters memorable. If everything is perfect for your hero, they will be forgettable. And why is that? Because it's not relatable. The human experience is full of contradictions and doubts and things that we struggle with internally. That's what we relate to. Here's a way to fix this in your writing. Choose 2 fears, write them down, and make them contradictory to each other. So an example of this would be perhaps your character has this as its fear. I fear I'll be just like my father and I will abuse people and hurt people. The other contradictory fear could be that I might be powerless to protect those I love, and so I better learn how to fight. These 2 contradictory fears. And when you're writing the character, they have to choose and they have to push forward in one while the contradictory fear is pulling against the other fear. This creates a constant tug of war within the character. And this isn't just background noise. This is fundamental to your character, and you can let it out in small ways. Like, for example, how tightly do they grip the steering wheel when they're angry? Or when they're faced with a conflict, how do they handle it? Do they charge forward like a bull in a china shop, or do they run away and hide? And that can be the way that they express those inner fears. Use these 4 writing tips to write characters that jump off the page and captivate your reader. Now, if this topic was interesting to you and you want to continue building on what I've talked about today and you want to learn more, you can check out one of my older videos about how to write compelling character arcs. And it's a great video. It'll help continue your learning in this area. Now, go forth and write that story that's burning on your heart to write. But write those characters so alive, so compelling that they refuse to stay on the page and they just jump out and grab your reader. Your readers will thank you, and quite frankly, so will your characters. Thanks for watching.